President Donald Trump has once again positioned himself at the center of national attention, this time as the principal actor in one of the most consequential media-related legal battles in recent American history. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. The former president has filed a $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, an action that has sparked significant discussion among legal scholars, media analysts, political commentators, and the public alike. The case is being widely viewed as a modern example of how a high-profile public figure might leverage the courts to challenge traditional press protections under the First Amendment, potentially reshaping the legal and cultural landscape surrounding media accountability and free expression. Trump's legal challenge is expansive in scope, naming not only 4 journalists at the New York Times but also the publisher Penguin Random House. The lawsuit disputes 3 specific newspaper articles alongside a book authored by 2 of the journalists, which appeared on the public stage just 2 months prior to the 2024 presidential election. Both the articles and the book scrutinized Trump's personal wealth, financial dealings, and the ongoing struggles and controversies surrounding his business ventures. According to the lawsuit, these publications were not mere reporting but were part of a calculated effort to defame Trump with malicious intent. The suit also accuses the New York Times of functioning as a full-throated mouthpiece of the Democrat Party, suggesting that the media outlet's reporting was politically motivated rather than an exercise of journalistic duty. The filing, submitted on September 15 in the federal Middle District of Florida by Trump's Miami-based attorney, signals an aggressive legal approach that blends personal grievance with political strategy. Trump amplified his accusations on Truth Social, describing the New York Times as a degenerate newspaper and framing the lawsuit as a continuation of his broader struggle against what he perceives as a biased and hostile media. He highlighted previous litigation victories against other major outlets, including ABC News and CBS News 60 Minutes, in which he reportedly defended his reputation successfully. The New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too long, and that stops now. Trump wrote, signaling a zero-tolerance stance toward reporting he believes is inaccurate or maliciously framed. This lawsuit does not exist in isolation but is part of a broader pattern of legal challenges by Trump aimed at high-profile media organizations. Earlier this year, he filed a suit against the Wall Street Journal regarding a story about a leather-bound birthday book given to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The book allegedly contained notes and letters from friends, family members, and Trump himself. Some of these entries were subsequently released by the House Oversight Committee on September 8, renewing public attention on Trump's associations with Epstein and the broader ethical questions surrounding these interactions. The timing of both lawsuits, just months before a pivotal presidential election, raises critical questions about the interplay between legal strategy and political maneuvering, and whether such litigation is being used not only to protect personal reputation but also to influence public perception and voter sentiment. The New York Times responded to Trump's lawsuit by categorically rejecting the claims. A spokesperson for the publication described the legal action as without merit, and accused the former president of attempting to intimidate journalists and suppress independent reporting. The New York Times will not be deterred by intimidation tactics, the spokesperson said. We will continue to pursue the facts without fear or favor and stand up for journalists' First Amendment right to ask questions on behalf of the American people. The case highlights the tension inherent in defamation law, particularly as it applies to public figures. In the United States, public figures face a heightened burden of proof in defamation cases. They must demonstrate actual malice, proving that a journalist or media organization knowingly published false information or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Historically, this standard has made it difficult for politicians and other public figures to succeed in defamation lawsuits. Legal experts point out that Trump's lawsuits may have broader implications for investigative journalism. By threatening enormous financial penalties, $15 billion in this case, Trump may create a chilling effect, discouraging reporters and news organizations from pursuing critical stories about public figures for fear of costly litigation. Critics of Trump's legal approach argue that such lawsuits undermine the press's watchdog function, which is essential in holding powerful individuals accountable. Conversely, supporters contend that media organizations must be held to high standards of accuracy and fairness, and that accountability mechanisms such as defamation suits are an important part of maintaining journalistic integrity. The political and electoral context of this lawsuit is particularly significant. With the 2024 presidential election on the horizon, this legal action could influence public perceptions of both Trump and the media. Lawsuits of this nature often operate on multiple levels. Legally, they seek redress for perceived wrongs. Politically, they serve as a signal to supporters and a challenge to detractors. In Trump's case, the $15 billion claim underscores not only his commitment to defending his personal and professional reputation but also his willingness to confront and publicly challenge media institutions. This strategy may resonate with his base, reinforcing his image as a combative figure standing up to perceived bias and misinformation. Historically, defamation law has provided a framework to balance the rights of individuals against the freedoms of the press. Landmark decisions such as New York Times Company vs. Sullivan 1964 established the actual malice standard, protecting journalists from liability when reporting on public figures unless they knowingly publish false information or act with reckless disregard for the truth. Trump's lawsuit against the New York Times enters this legal landscape, raising questions about how courts will interpret and apply these principles in the modern media environment. Social media, partisan news outlets, and the 24-hour news cycle complicate the analysis, making it more challenging to assess claims of bias, intent, and factual accuracy. Experts also note that high-profile lawsuits like Trump's may have long-term consequences for the broader media ecosystem. If courts were to impose substantial penalties or interpret defamation law in a way that favors public figures more heavily, news organizations could become more cautious in their reporting, potentially limiting coverage of politically sensitive topics. At the same time, a robust defense by the press could reaffirm the enduring protections of the First Amendment, signaling that investigative reporting, especially on public officials, remains a vital component of democratic accountability. Trump's antagonistic relationship with the press has been a defining feature of his public and political life. From his earliest campaigns through his presidency and into his post-presidential career, Trump has consistently characterized negative media coverage as politically motivated attacks. He coined the term fake news and frequently singled out outlets he perceived as hostile, framing them as part of a larger effort to undermine his influence and credibility. This ongoing conflict has had significant consequences, including heightened polarization in public discourse, diminishing trust in traditional media, and the increasing entrenchment of partisan news ecosystems. Legal observers are closely watching the Trump vs. New York Times case for its potential to set significant precedents regarding defamation, press freedom, and the boundaries of legal accountability for media organizations. Questions abound. How will courts apply the actual malice standard in an era dominated by rapid news cycles and social media amplification? To what extent can lawsuits be used strategically to influence public perception, even when legal success is uncertain? And how will these cases shape the behavior of both media organizations and political figures in the years to come? The lawsuit also provides a lens through which to examine the broader societal tensions between freedom of the press and individual reputation. On one hand, a free and independent press is indispensable for democracy, enabling citizens to make informed decisions and holding power to account. On the other hand, public figures, particularly those seeking or holding political office, have a legitimate interest in protecting their reputations against false or misleading reporting. Trump's legal strategy sits at the intersection of these competing interests, highlighting the delicate balance between safeguarding free speech and ensuring accountability. As the legal battle unfolds, it is clear that the stakes extend far beyond the immediate dispute between Trump and the New York Times. The case raises fundamental questions about the role of journalism in society, the responsibilities of media organizations in reporting on public figures, and the limits of legal recourse for those who believe they have been wronged by the press. It also underscores the increasingly adversarial relationship between powerful political figures and the media, reflecting a broader cultural moment in which trust, bias, and accountability are contested in both legal and public arenas. In conclusion, the $15 billion defamation lawsuit filed by Donald Trump against the New York Times represents more than a personal grievance. It is a landmark moment in the ongoing struggle between political power and press freedom. With billions of dollars at stake, extensive legal precedent potentially on the line, and the 2024 election approaching, the lawsuit promises to be a defining case that could influence media practices, legal interpretations, and public discourse for years to come. For Trump, it is a continuation of a long-standing campaign to defend his reputation and challenge perceived bias. For the media, it is a test of resilience and a reaffirmation of the essential role that journalism plays in American democracy. And for the nation, it is a stark reminder of the complex, often contentious, but ultimately critical balance between free expression and accountability in the